Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling a question that's both, well, ancient and something you're specifically thinking about right now.
hmm
Why do we do the things we do?
Yeah.
It's a deceptively simple question, but as we dig into the sources you've provided, we've got psychology articles, philosophical discussions, even a podcast transcript about decision making.
Right.
We're going to see it's pretty intricate.
It really is. It's like we're setting out to solve a fascinating mystery, the mystery of human behavior.
I love that. Every choice, every action, it all goes back to this fundamental why.
Yep.
So, where do we even begin?
Well, your sources offer some compelling starting points, I think.
Okay.
Several of them kind of dive right into this concept of motivation, and specifically the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. And this might sound familiar, but understanding the interplay between them, I think, is crucial to understanding what drives our actions.
Okay, so remind me, what's the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation?
Okay, so imagine you're learning a new language.
Yeah.
If you're doing it purely for the love of it, the joy of exploring a new culture, connecting with people, that's intrinsic motivation. It comes from within.
Got it.
But if you're mainly studying to get a promotion or to impress someone, that's extrinsic, driven by external rewards or pressures.
Okay, that makes sense. But I feel it's rarely just one or the other.
Yeah.
Like, I might work out because it makes me feel good, that's intrinsic, but also to fit into an outfit for a special occasion, which is definitely extrinsic.
Exactly. It's often a mix, and the sources really emphasize that it's the interplay between these two types of motivation that shape our actions. One article I read, it actually argues that relying solely on extrinsic motivation can diminish our intrinsic drive over time. So if we're only doing something for the reward, it might make us enjoy it less in the long run.
That's so interesting. So it's like that old saying, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. It's not about finding a job with good perks. It's about finding something that truly lights you up from the inside.
Precisely. Now, while motivation is a key piece of the puzzle, your sources also emphasize that it's only part of the story.
Okay.
Our values and beliefs play a huge role in shaping our choices as well.
Okay, so let's unpack those terms for a second. What do we even mean when we talk about values and beliefs, and how do they fit into this whole why thing?
So think of values as your guiding principles, the things you hold most dear.
Okay.
Honesty, creativity, kindness, ambition, family. These are all examples of values. One source even describes values as our internal compass, pointing us towards decisions that feel right,
Yeah.
that align with who we are at our core.
I love that analogy. So it's like our values provide the direction and our motivation is the fuel that propels us forward.
Exactly. And our values can sometimes clash with our
Oh,
desires,
for sure.
leading to this kind of internal conflict.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I had this opportunity to move to a new city for this amazing job, but I ultimately turned it down because being close to my family is really important to me. Logically, it would have been amazing, but it just didn't feel right. It didn't align with what I actually care about.
And that's a perfect example of values in action, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They can lead us to make decisions that might not make sense from a practical standpoint,
Right.
but feel deeply right on an emotional and personal level.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's values. What about beliefs? How do those fit into this whole decision-making thing?
Beliefs are our convictions about ourselves and the world. They're the lenses we see everything through. Like one source uses this great example. Let's say you believe you're capable of achieving great things.
Okay.
That belief can empower you to take risks, persevere through challenges. But if you have this limiting belief, like a fear of failure, it can hold you back from even trying.
It's like those beliefs become self-fulfilling prophecies almost.
Exactly.
But how do we even know? How do we differentiate those beliefs from just being realistic? Is it always beneficial to just believe you can achieve anything, even if that might not be super grounded in.
Reality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's where things get really nuanced because sometimes our beliefs, they aren't entirely accurate
Right.
or even conscious. They're often formed through our past experiences, influences from other people.
Yeah.
And we may not even realize they're shaping our perceptions.
So it's not just about identifying our values and beliefs, but also questioning them,
Yes.
making sure they're actually, working for us.
Absolutely.
Right. It's like we download all this software from the world around us, but we don't even check if it's compatible.
It's such a good analogy.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize how important awareness is.
Yeah.
The more we understand these subtle influences,
Mm-hmm.
I think the more we can actually control our own thoughts and actions.
Okay, so we've been talking about this kind of internal landscape, our motivations, values, beliefs, how they shape the decisions that we make.
Right.
But what about the external world? How does that come into play?
Well, one of the things that your sources really emphasize is that we are social creatures by nature.
Mm-hmm.
And our environment, it exerts this powerful influence on our behavior,
Mm-hmm.
often in ways that we're not even aware of.
Totally. It's like that saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly. And it's not just our immediate circle either. It's
Right.
the broader cultural context too. Our upbringing, our education, the things we see in the media, it all shapes how we see the world and really what we believe is even possible for us.
It's like we're all actors on a stage, but we're responding to cues from the director, from the other actors, even from the audience,
Yeah.
without always realizing how much it's affecting, our performance.
Precisely. One of the things I was reading, they described our lives as being like movies.
Okay.
We're the main characters, the ones making choices and all that. But the setting, the other people in the movie, even the music,
Right.
it all influences how our story unfolds.
Okay, I have to ask, though, how do we become more aware of these subtle influences?
Yeah.
It's kind of overwhelming to think about all the time.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's a process. It's not like something we figure out overnight.
Mm.
But just acknowledging these influences exist, that's a huge first step.
Yes.
Start paying attention to the messages that you're taking in from the world around you, from the media you consume, even from like your own internal dialogue, right? What assumptions are you making? What biases might be affecting how you see things?
It's like becoming a detective in your own life,
Exactly.
looking for clues about why you think and act the way you do.
Exactly. And just remember, awareness isn't about judging ourselves or other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's about understanding.
Okay, so we're building a case here.
Yeah.
We've got our motivation, values, beliefs, social and cultural influences.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot to keep track of. What other pieces, what other key factors feed into this whole why we do what we do mystery?
Well, we can't forget about emotions. Our feelings, both positive and negative, they can be really powerful motivators.
Oh, tell me about it. I have a million stories of times I made decisions based purely on emotion, like that time I booked a last-minute trip because I was feeling burnt out,
Oh, yeah.
only to realize later that I couldn't really afford it.
Yeah, I think we've all been there. You're not alone. It's a very human thing. One study actually found that people are more likely to make irrational decisions when they're hungry.
Okay, that's both hilarious and terrifying at the same time. It's like our brains literally can't function properly when our stomachs are grumbling. So, next time I'm about to make a big decision, I'll grab a snack first. But on a serious note, how do emotions play into our decision making from a psychological standpoint?
Okay, so think about it this way. Joy, excitement, those positive emotions, they can inspire us to connect with others, pursue our passions, maybe step outside of our comfort zones a little.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side, fear, anxiety, even sadness, they can make us avoid certain situations,
Yeah.
make impulsive choices, or even stay stuck in patterns that really aren't serving us anymore.
Right, right. Okay, so it's not just about understanding our emotions, but learning how to manage them so they don't take over,
Yeah.
hijack our decision making completely. Easier said than done, though, right?
Mm.
What were some of the, practical things you came across in your research?
Yeah, absolutely. One source I was looking at suggested this really simple but powerful technique. When you're facing a decision, especially one that triggers a strong emotional response, hit the pause button, just take a moment to acknowledge the emotion that you're feeling. But do it without judgment. Just ask yourself, okay, what's driving this? Is this based on logic or is there something deeper going on here? And sometimes that pause is all we need to make a more conscious choice.
It's like that classic advice, don't respond when you're angry. Giving ourselves that space to cool down, process our emotions, I think can make a huge difference. I know I'm definitely guilty of, firing off an angry email in the heat of the moment and then immediately regretting it. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've got motivation, we've got values, beliefs, social and cultural influences, emotions. It feels like we're getting closer to cracking the code of human behavior here.
Yeah.
But is there something missing? Is there a bigger why that kind of ties all these threads together?
Ooh, you've hit on something really profound because at the heart of so many of our choices, even the little ones, the ones that seem insignificant, there's this fundamental human need,
What's that?
the search for meaning.
Okay, let's get philosophical for a second.
Okay.
When we talk about meaning, what do we even mean Because it feels like this really big kind of abstract concept.
Yeah, it's definitely complex. But at its core, I think seeking meaning is about finding a sense of purpose in our lives, feeling like our actions have value, like they contribute to something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, that really resonates. I know when I'm feeling like lost or unfulfilled, it's often because I've lost sight of that bigger why, that sense of purpose that kind of fuels my motivation and gives my actions meaning in the first place.
Hmm.
It's like without that, all the other stuff, the decisions, the motivations, even the achievements, it can start to feel kind of empty.
That's a really insightful observation, and I think it highlights why this search for meaning is so essential to us as human beings. The sources I was looking at, they talk about how engaging in activities that promote self-discovery,
Okay.
personal growth, even connection with something bigger than ourselves,
Yeah.
whether that's spirituality, nature, community,
Right.
those can help us tap into that sense of meaning and purpose we're all looking for.
So it's not necessarily about having all the answers or achieving some big, predefined purpose. It's more about the journey of self-discovery itself,
I think so.
exploring what makes us tick and what brings us joy.
Hmm.
It like the meaning isn't out there waiting for us to find it. We actually create it through our experiences and our choices.
Exactly. One of your sources puts it beautifully. They said, the meaning of life is not simply to exist to survive, but to move ahead, to go up, to achieve, to conquer. It's about embracing that drive within us to learn, grow, and make our mark on the world.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together now. Our
Hmm.
motivations, our values, our experiences, they all feed into this kind of ongoing search for meaning and purpose.
Right.
It's like we're all on this grand quest to figure out what it all means, why we're here, and what we're meant to do, with this one precious life.
It's a lifelong journey, that's for sure. But I think even small steps, like just reflecting on our motivations, challenging our beliefs,
Yeah.
making choices that are aligned with our values,
Mm,
those can all bring us closer to that sense of purpose
I love that.
and really make the journey itself more meaningful.
This has been such an insightful conversation.
It has.
We've covered so much ground from the nitty-gritty of motivation to the big existential questions about the meaning of life. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a wave of intellectual satisfaction washing over me right now.
It's always so fascinating to delve into these questions about human behavior.
It is.
But you know what I think is really interesting? This exploration.
Yeah.
It's far from over.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, if all these forces, right, like they're constantly at play, shaping who we are, what we do,
Right.
how much free will do we really have?
Yeah.
It's like philosophers have been debating this forever.
Totally.
And even the stuff you sent, it comes up.
It's true. It's like we've been laying out all these different influences. But then it makes you think, are we really the ones in control? Are we just like playing out a script that's already written?
It's kind of both, don't you think? Like,
Hmm.
yeah, we're influenced by our biology, how we were raised, where we live,
Mm-hmm.
but we also have this capacity for self-awareness,
Mm.
for reflection, for actually
Mm.
making conscious choices.
Right.
And that's where I think the real power is.
Okay. So it's not about pretending these forces don't exist.
No.
But if we're aware of them,
Yes.
then we can make choices that are more in line with, I don't know, what we want.
Exactly. It's about recognizing we have a say in how our lives go, even if we are influenced by all these internal and external things.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can choose how we react to things.
Right.
We can choose to build habits that actually reflect what we care about. We can even question our own beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
rewrite old stories about ourselves that aren't serving us anymore.
Okay. I like that. That's empowering, but it's also a lot, right? Like, how do we even start to be more, what was that phrase, conscious architects of our own lives? Where do we begin?
One thing I kept coming back to was this idea of aligning our actions with our values.
Okay.
We were talking earlier about how values can kind of guide our big decisions in life,
Right.
but it goes way beyond that too. It's about those smaller everyday choices that also reflect what we really truly care about.
Can you give an example of that?
Yeah, totally. Like one of the articles I read, they talked about someone who really values creativity, but is stuck in a job that just isn't creatively fulfilling at all.
Yeah.
So maybe they start small, taking a pottery class, writing in a journal, even just like doodling for a few minutes each day.
I love that because it's like those little things, those sparks of joy can reignite that sense of purpose, make even the most, I don't know, mundane parts of life feel more meaningful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as we make those small shifts, maybe the bigger changes start to happen more naturally. We might suddenly feel more motivated to finally pursue that passion project
Totally.
or have that tough conversation we've been putting off.
Yeah.
Maybe even make a big life change that's more in line with who we truly are.
So it's not about having it all figured out right away
Definitely not.
or like doing a complete 180 overnight. It's more about taking those small but consistent steps,
Yes.
moving in the direction of what feels right to us, what feels good.
Exactly.
And trusting that even if we don't have all the answers, we're still like heading in the right direction.
Love that. Couldn't have
Oh,
said it
yeah.
better myself.
To all our listeners out there, we've covered a lot of ground today. We started with the nitty-gritty of motivation. We talked about how much our values matter, the influence of the world around us, how powerful our emotions can be.
It's a lot.
It is. So as you go through the rest of your day, your week, your life, really, I want you to pay attention to the why behind what you do. What motivates you? What values guide you? And what brings you that sense of meaning and purpose? Because those answers, my friends, they hold the key to unlocking a life that is truly authentic and fulfilling. And that's what it's all about.
That's it right there.
If you're ever feeling stuck, remember this whole journey of self-discovery, it's best traveled with a sense of curiosity,
Mm.
and a willingness to explore.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those big questions. And as always, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.